Hello, everyone. Welcome to Achieving Success with Olivia Atkin. I'm your host, Olivia Atkin. Each week, we will discuss the roadmap of achieving your personal and professional success. We will give you real-life stories on growing personally and professionally to achieve your life and career goals with the help of some top-notch guests. Today, we are speaking with Lenell Wyman. Lenell is an acquisition editor at Kendall Hunt Publishing. Prior to being an acquisition editor, Lenell held roles as a business development manager at Printi USA, an account representative at Bluegrace Logistics. You can find Lenell on LinkedIn by searching Lenell Wyman or emailing her at lwyman@kendallhunt.com. Hello, Lenell. It's fantastic having you on the show today.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. To start off the show, can you tell me what success means and looks like to Lenell Wyman?
Sure. I actually spent a lot of time thinking about this question because after giving it a lot of thought, I realized that for me, success is almost kind of a moving target. It's more about the climb than the destination in a sense. I guess for me, success is just reaching whatever goal I've set and then getting to start the next one. Um, And thinking about it a little bit more, I think it also really comes down to success being when I've gotten to a place where I can start to help others with things that I couldn't do before.
And I think that's a really good point to bring up as well is your success is okay, now I've learned it, I've mastered this skill, let me help others do the same. And I think that's really part of the point of this podcast is saying,
Mhm.
okay, these are the things I've mastered, these have been the bumps along the way, and now we're here to share and have an open dialogue with it. That being said, Linnell, you work as an acquisition editor for a publishing company that publishes textbooks for students. What made you decide to work in publishing and especially within Kendall Hunt Publishing?
Sure. Well, I wouldn't say I necessarily decided to work in publishing. It was an opportunity that arose and I decided to take it. Um, it was a very twisty path getting there. Um, But I mean, ultimately, the reason I ended up deciding to take the role was because I just really loved the day-to-day tasks. And ultimately, at least in a career for me, that was what I was looking for. Was getting up in the morning and going, I'm excited to start my day and not dreading going to work.
And I think that's really important is saying, okay, I like even those mundane tasks because after a while, all tasks can kind of be similar, even if they
Hmm.
differentiate to some extent. It's a new book you're working on, it might be a new client you're working with, but those overarching tasks can be the same. So when you enjoy even those small things, it makes the day a lot better.
It does. It's amazing how I've been with Kendall Hunt for a little over 4 years now, and I can't even believe it's been that long. Every day just goes by so quick. And I guess it's because I'm actually really into what I'm doing and I'm enjoying it.
Why don't you tell our listeners what a day in the life or what an acquisition editor does for a publishing company?
Sure. So I do a lot. I'd say I have about three main roles that I do. The first is finding and signing new projects. So that's one part that I really enjoy. I guess I enjoy all of it, but the part I really enjoy is the treasure hunt, if you will. Getting to go out and I get to speak with a lot of really different and interesting people, kind of like you, Olivia. Um, and uh, listen to their ideas and pick people who I think would be good authors for projects and then get them excited about doing the project as well. The second piece of the role is project management and making sure that those projects actually come to fruition, managing the authors and then also managing the production side of things. Um, that is also fun and it comes with its own challenges. And um, but again, I think that's why I like it is because it's the same thing but different all the time. So I'm always having to problem solve and think of new ways of doing things and be creative. And then the third piece is sales. Um, and so making sure that once those books are released, that they actually are selling, and that everything that me and the production team and the author have done, all their hard work actually gets recognized, and we get to that final goal. We succeed.
Exactly. And for those of you, most people wouldn't realize this, but I a lot of individuals who are listening or go to my website or see it on Amazon or all the different places my book is published, achieving your I can't even speak today. Achieving success in career development by Olivia Atkin. Um, Lenell actually approached me to write that book. And that is how Lenell and I actually connected because she was my acquisition editor. And that is where I published my first book through was with Lenell and her team. And so I've personally gone through this process that Lenell is talking about. And I know it can be different for a lot of individuals. Lenell and I've talked a lot about how, for example, my process ended up being a lot faster than other individual processes. What is that like? So for me, for example, we went from 0 to 100 real fast.
Yep.
For my listeners who don't realize, and this is a story not many people like know, and Linnell, you could talk about it on your end in a minute,
Hmm.
but Linnell approached me last February, so February 2022, end of February, about writing this book on career development. And we had our first meeting, I think, where we really sat down and I was like, okay, what are you expecting? What are the publishing company trying to achieve with this? And like, do you have expectations on what I produce or can I have kind of free range? And that was the end of February, beginning of March. And then we sat down. Linnell was like, okay, here's the contract, sign it. And then she's like, okay, I'm going to get the team together. We'll have an introductory call in like 2 to 3 weeks. And that would have been the end of April. And
Hmm.
I texted her a week before that. So we're talking 2 weeks since I signed the contract. And Linnell had gotten me so excited about the whole process and just very easy to work with and we want to make sure it's beneficial for everyone, including the students, that I called her up and I said, what if I told you I wrote the whole book and added 3 chapters from what we initially discussed? And I think, Linnell, you almost fell off your chair when I said that.
I did.
And you were like, wait, what do you mean? And I'm like, yeah, I wrote it. Like, obviously, it had to go through edits and everything. But I was like, I think it's good. And I think it might be what you want. So our first meeting ended up where it was going to be an introduction with the team, ended up being a planning meeting of like, now we have to transition the timeline, the project management timeline that we initially have,
Hmm.
talk to the team. Is that how are we editing this? Like all that process ended up being the first meeting. And that was in April. And Linnell really took the ball and ran with it. She was like, okay, we're doing this. She's got this going on. And I mean, she got me artwork from the artist right away. I mean, in less than a month, we were at print and out for publishing by not even mid June, beginning of June. So it was real quick turnaround. But what is that experience like for you when you have authors like myself who go 0 to 100 without you even having time to process the whole thing on your guys' end? And then the opposite of that, of having authors go 0 to 100 in like their process being like 3 years, super long time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll definitely say I really love the authors that go 0 to 100 and have it all done in a month. That actually is wonderful. I love that. Especially because I have development reports that I have to produce on a monthly basis on progress of projects. So if I can say that I signed it one month and that it's already written and into production the next, boy, does that make me look great. um, so Love that. As far as authors that take more time, I understand and life happens. And really, with that, I just try to be understanding and just be in communication. And that's one thing I stress with them is always communicate with me about what's going on so we can come up with a new game plan and work around it. Um, I never, ever, ever want to be someone that's pushing you to do something that you're just not able to do. And I don't want to stress anybody out or put too much on their plate. But I also do want to make sure that we're getting things done in a timely manner. So I'm just like, communicate with me, let me know what's going on. And then we'll work together in something that works well for both of us. And I really think that that's a lot of it is just, being a team player and having open communication is really the main thing.
And I think that's a key point. You need to be able to say, especially when working on a big project, this is a stressor for me. We need to either go slower or I need help working this out so that it can become productive. If you don't communicate and you're on either end and you're not saying, hey, this is going on, this is what's happening, it could hold things up, whatever it might be, then expectations don't get met. Then,
Hmm.
there could be gaps in the communication. What's really sounding like to me, and you touched upon it in your earlier words, was project management. And a lot of people don't necessarily understand, you hear about project managers, you hear about project management like certifications and how project management can kind of go into any role you do.
Hmm.
What have you learned about project management and applying those skills into your role every day that you've really opened your eyes to and been like, wow, this is really leading a project, and these are the tools taken from my resources that have really helped me?
I'd say the biggest things are lists and then more lists. um, Also, I really utilize, which I guess is kind of a list in itself, Microsoft like To Do, which is like a to do list that you can put things in, and every day it will let you know what's due that day. And just making sure that you stay on top of that. I keep a to do list on Microsoft Word on my desktop that gets edited and modified throughout the course of every day. Things get prioritized and deprioritized depending on what's going on. Um, and then, the other piece is really just communication. I'd say those are the two biggest things is lists to be organized and communication with everybody that you're working with. Um, and I think the communication piece really just takes practice. If you're not a good communicator, I'd say just really work on trying to listen to what people need from you in order to be successful and be good at communicating your needs to those people to be successful.
And one thing that I like that you do, especially, is you always say, okay, here's the timeline. This is when things are due. This is what I'm expecting. So you know that date is coming. You
Mhm.
know what, you know, and you do it on both ends. You ask that of your authors, and you plan it out together. It's a joint strategy
Mhm.
meeting of like, hey, you're going to have X amount of chapters in the guideline. We're trying to get this out in. Can you produce this chapter by this date? And then we'll do this chapter that date. And at the end of the day, you take that and you follow up on it and you say, okay, this is going to be coming due. But you also do that from the people you work with as well. I've noticed
Mhm.
Lenell have said in her email, okay, we'll have artwork for you in an email by this date. And as the date's approaching, she'll be like, okay, just a reminder that that artwork will have it to you. And a lot of times, what ends up happening is with those due dates, deliveries get done early. And then it's like, wow, actually, I got that earlier. We're ahead of schedule. And it bumps
Mhm.
up the momentum that's happening as well.
Absolutely. Yep. And then the other thing too, which like you said with the due dates is like I just set reminders for myself. That's really what it comes down to. I just set reminders for myself and try and stay on top of everything. And then it's just a simple, quick email to shoot off to someone. And I think the other piece, too, like you said, is just checking in with people and making sure that you get that buy in from the rest of the parties as well. It's great if I set a due date, but if they don't agree to it or they don't think it's reasonable, it's not going to do anything. So making sure that I'm like, okay, I really need this in 3 weeks. Do you think that that's doable for you? I really need four. Do you think you could do 3.5? Let's negotiate. If we, do you think that that could work? That would make it easier for me, or do you think you could get me half of it in 3 weeks and then get me the second half in four, or something like that? Um, just really trying to, I guess, negotiate and then also check in with the other party to make sure that everybody is good with what's going on.
Linnell, not everything can go as smoothly as we plan or hope, and you've experienced this firsthand. And we've talked about it numerous, like many times. On sometimes things are happening, and especially as a project manager, when you're wearing that hat, you're not always aware certain things are happening until it comes to your plate,
Hmm.
whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. Sometimes you can't control it. How have you dealt in situations where you've had, in your case, an author come to you and say, okay, this is happening. I need it fixed, or are you aware of it? How do you kind of, in that moment, diffuse the situation and then pivot it to making sure that it gets corrected and gets corrected like 100-fold over, to where you kind of forget in the moment that that's happening?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that comes back to customer service experience. I've had a very long career in that as well. Like all through high school and everything, I literally worked at customer service in a retail store. So dealing with returns and I don't know, whatever else, the sale didn't come off on my receipt or whatever have you. And when dealing with the public, you deal with all sorts of people. And one thing I learned from a manager way back in those days was just to always just listen and be empathetic. And if you actually do that, then you're also going to be able to figure out how to help them. And I think that's another big piece, is asking, okay, this is a problem. What can I do to make it right? What can we do to fix it? And really focus on the solution. And I think that's the thing that, because when anybody's upset, myself included, like ultimately that's what they want. They want the problem fixed. So if you really focus on trying to help them and fix the problem, that's going to do both right there. You're going to fix the problem and you're going to diffuse the situation because you're already trying to help them.
And I want to touch upon that a little bit. Is you're talking about acknowledging their feelings. So in
Hmm.
any situation, right? It's not just a book. It could be you're having a discussion with a friend, or there's a problem, with something at your house and you're just trying to get it fixed. And it's making sure you're heard and saying, "Okay, I get it. This is a problem, and today it happened. Now, I'm going to fix it X, Y, and Z." And just knowing, okay, this is how we're fixing it. This is the plan in place. And for you, I want to flip that a little bit as well. I'm going to
Okay.
challenge you a little bit, Linnell.
Okay.
So, how are those conversations, if they are, any different with a first time author versus someone who's been publishing? They might have published like 4 or 5 books already, and they kind of
Hmm.
know the process more. Do you Have you experienced different levels of time sensitivity or understanding, and how do you kind of express that with people who might be in different parts of their publishing author process and
Yeah.
levels?
Absolutely. I mean, an author that you've been working with on multiple titles over the years, you're obviously going to build a good relationship with them. And I would hope a friendship. All of mine, at least, have been. I've been fortunate enough for that to be the case. And so it gets almost a little bit more informal at that point, and you can kind of level with them if something goes wrong, or they can level with you and be like, cousin Tallulah again, she came over unannounced and I didn't get that chapter done. And maybe they're giving me a real reason instead of a professional excuse. Um, but either way, because of that friendship and that relationship, I mean, it doesn't really change anything. I would say it's just a little bit more expedited perhaps. They know what the process is, and a lot of times they're a lot more comfortable with the fact that they know that I'm going to offer them a good solution and that I'm going to work hard to make sure that it gets solved. Whereas with a newer author, they haven't worked with me before and they don't know what I'm willing to do for them yet.
I will say
So,
from personal experience, and sorry if I cut you off,
yeah.
Linnell. Linnell is the editor, acquisition editor, the project manager on a book you want in your corner. She is I quickly learned that Linnell is available all the time. Well, mainly all the time. I shouldn't say all the time, Linnell. I don't want to put you on the spot like that. But I would text Linnell during the day or, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What is your thoughts? And Linnell would text me back. And like Linnell said, it quickly builds. Like, even as a first author, right off the bat, when you have genuine conversations with individuals, you feel that. You feel the connection. For example, today on our podcast recording, I've Ben as my producer, and Ben and I have had many genuine conversations with which also helps me be able to turn around and say, "Hey Ben, can you fix this real fast?" Or Ben might get text from me, different times
Mhm.
in the day, but it helps with that communication and being able to get to the point, and also that level of comfort. And Linnell, I will say, is very good, especially as someone who was the first time author who Linnell approached, that after our first conversation, which I think lasted about an hour, I might be wrong, but we talked about life and everything.
Yep.
Um, you know off the bat Linnell is going to have your back. I definitely had hiccups in my publishing process, which is mainly due because I threw a wrench in it all and I turned to Linnell and said the book's done in 2 weeks. Um, but those few hiccups, and they were very few that I had, I text Linnell, I'd be like, "Hey, can you jump on a call? Can we talk this through?" Because sometimes it's also the fact of having a phone call to get to the point to be able to resolve it, then emails and texts. And I'm very much a person of like, "Hey, let's talk it out. Let's get to the point and like find a path forward." But Linnell would, in that conversation, hear it, and I'm not even joking, like, within hours, I would have resolutions of, the one issue, not even issue, it was a hiccup of I got my first edit back and I was reading it and there was more edits than I thought on the side of like, I thought they would have been picked up. And I was like, Linnell, what's the process? Like, help me understand. And Linnell was like, no, we're getting someone else. I'm making a phone call. This is going to be done. And like by the end of the day, I had a whole new editor who had already edited like the whole book and was like, here you go. And I'm like, that, and right off that experience, I knew whatever happened in my time, whatever was going on in the process, I knew I was safe with Linnell. I knew it was going to always be taken care of. It was going to end up right. And you made that happen. What is that like when you can be having moments like that of trying to really solve an issue that could potentially delay a project as well, and then going into meetings or trying to get an author signed where it can be a totally different, I should say, vibe. You need to have a different mindset, you need to have a different
Yeah.
tone sometimes. And how does that kind of play a role in your everyday roles within your job?
That's a great question. Honestly, I feel like my theater background helps a lot with that. I'm a very big ex-theater kid. I'd still probably do it more if I had the time, or thought that like I could still memorize all those lines. um, I don't know. With everything I have to remember at work now, I don't know if my brain has much more room at the end of the day. But anyway, um, I mean, I think it's really just a matter of trying to, I guess, kind of section stuff off in a way and just get ready for the next, I guess, I don't want to say performance because that sounds fake, but like It's just a matter of kind of getting in that headspace of, okay, we're here, we're doing this now, stay in the moment and don't worry about that other thing. You've got that on the back burner. And again, that's a lot where my lists come into play because I don't need to worry about it ruminating in my head if I've written it down on my list and I know that I'm going to remember it when I look at that list later. And again, that's why I love that master list because I don't have to worry about multiple lists getting lost.
I love a good master list. As Linnell knows, everything goes into my planner and I I've actually talked to Linnell about this before because Linnell has seen all the writings in my handwritten planner that I do. And granted, if I have a Zoom meeting or something like that, I'll write it in my planner so it's in one spot. But obviously, I have the meeting notifications on my calendar and everything else. But for me, I learned, and Linnell's going to laugh at this because she knows it's true. I remember in college, I used the laptop planner like all the time. I entered college, there was a lot going on. I've always been a planner and I put everything in my planner. And I was like, oh, my new laptop, it has the planner right there, the calendar. I could put everything in it, I could section it. This is great. And then I could access it anytime. And I had meeting locations, like every detail was in that planner. And I remember one time I went to go to a meeting and the whole computer crashed. And it was just somewhere like the computer died and I was in transition. I just walked out of one meeting. I had like 5 minutes to get to the next room in a different building. And I'm like, but wait, what building is it? What room? So since then, I've personally loved my master calendar being written out, but it is also what works for you. Whatever right next to you, right in front of you all the time. And for me, writing it out and being able to cross it off and feel like it's done and see everything I've accomplished for the day works for me. For Linnell, it's that list of being able to edit it, those dates, everything laid out in one big screen, which is great. It really helps, like you said, Linnell, organize your day. How do you, Linnell, go from all this stuff going on during the day to then pivoting after work and having that mindset of okay, work is work, that time's away, turn off the phone, kind of put it in a drawer, and then this is my personal time and make sure boundaries are set on both ends.
I mean, it's hard, especially in today's day and age. It's very, very, very hard. And I do try to put the phone away. I do. But there are some days that I am going to work late. I'll be honest with you. And there are some days that I am not going to work as hard at work because personal life has gotten in the way. And I think that it's just kind of give and take in this day and age. Honestly, what I do, and again, it comes down to lists, is I have a master list of everything in my life that needs to get done, not just work, but house stuff too. And it just gets kind of prioritized. If I have an extra busy day at work with a lot of big deadlines coming up, maybe we just have a frozen pizza for dinner. Or maybe we get takeout. But if I have a lighter day at work, I'll take advantage of that and you know, I don't know, in between meetings, run some errands or something. Or, take a day off to babysit my niece and nephews because their parents needed a day off. Um, um, but I mean, on a normal average day, turning off, really, it's just a matter of shutting it down and putting the phone. That's the big one for me. Putting because I've got a company phone and a personal phone, and putting that company phone away, putting it in a different room. I don't wanna hear it vibrate, I don't wanna see it flash, nothing, because I know myself, and I know that I will wanna look at it,
And
and
and sorry,
ugh,
I know Linnell does that. That's why I was kinda like, laughing when I was asking the question, and I, said it because Linnell's good at that. She has the advantage of having a personal phone and a work cell phone. So, I've gotten texts where to me, it was not the end of the day yet because I lost track of time and I had a question and I sent it and or to be honest, I think I texted you once or twice on a weekend because I was working on stuff and just, sometimes it is okay to sometimes feel like you're working on things and get lost in it and or be excited or have an
Mhm.
idea and want to express that to other people. When you
Yep.
don't get a response sometimes, like on a weekend, don't get upset though, because there are you've set your list in place, you've set your goals, you've set your priorities of what needs to be done for the week. And that could also be you're trying to do stuff on the weekend because you have other things going on for the week and you're taking days off. But back to what I was saying is Linnell has texted me on a Monday or the next day and been like, my phone was away. I'm sorry. How can I help? Or I'm just reading this now. So what has helped too, that I think is good, is you've set that boundary of like, yeah, you can text me or you can call. If I don't answer, I'll let you know why when I reach back out. So that your clients or whoever you're talking to, right? It relates into a
Mhm.
personal relationship well, in the fact of like, if I don't get back to you in a little bit, I will tell you why. So you don't think that I was ignoring you or that I just didn't care or I didn't want to deal with it. How do you express that sometimes in your personal life?
So the opposite, like when someone's trying to text me at work or something, or like actually, I guess what's happening right now, where my friends always want to go to karaoke on Wednesday nights, and most of the time I'm too tired. um, yeah, I mean, really, again, it just comes down to being genuine and that open communication. Just last weekend, I've been kind of going nonstop since Christmas. Now that COVID's dying down and things are opening back up and everybody's coming back out more. I've had a lot of friends, new and old, that I haven't spoken to in a long time that are reaching out and saying, let's hang out. And I'm a very sociable person and I want to hang out with everybody, but I only have 2 days a week to do it. Plus, I still have to clean my house and do other things to keep my life moving. Um, and so really it just comes down to being honest and going, I really want to hang out with you and I'm sorry that it sounds like I'm scheduling you, but unfortunately this is the only time I have to work with right now, or I'm really feeling burnt out right now and I just need the weekend to relax. That's what I ended up doing last weekend. I had a friend that wanted to hang out and I was like, "Look, I'm sorry, but I'm not feeling well and I've been going nonstop and I just really really need a night in for myself." And it's just setting that boundary, and I've learned that if they're really your friends, they'll understand.
Yeah, and
So,
I think it brings up a great point of being authentic, like you said, and being transparent and just saying, this is where I am. And I laughed when you said sometimes it could sound like I'm scheduling you because as someone who has literally told their friends, these are the time blocks I have in the week available. um, if like I've especially in this past year have I've had a lot on my plate. Growing a brand new business. I still work full time. We have a podcast. As Linnell knows, I was teaching last year as a professor when she approached me to write the book. I sit on multiple international and state boards for different businesses and organizations, professional, and I volunteer. So me and Linnell have very much had the conversation of I'm like, I'll make it work. But like you have to also compromise because you get like these 30-minute or an hour block here, or it could be a weird time here. And I've said that to my friends sometimes. I'm like, I will make the time for you. It might be in 2 weeks from now, or it might be, hey, I could do dessert. I can't do, lunch, or I can't do dinner, but I could join you afterwards if you guys are all still hanging out. It's showing, hey, yeah, you're a priority, but I also have these things going on. So as long as we're all aware of it, so you don't think I'm being one way or another, then we're good. And let's move forward and let's work together so that when we do hang out, one thing for me too, Lenell, and Lenell knows this from talking to me. My mind can go everywhere. And sometimes for me, and Lenell, I want you to talk about your experience because you definitely have a lot on your plate all the time. For me, sometimes when I have those stressor moments, there's a lot on the plate. I've worked a 16-hour day, and in my head, I'm like, there's still all these deadlines, these things, all I have to do this week. To me, sometimes it's also saying to your friends, listen, I could do that, but A, I'm going to either be half asleep or I could possibly be like a little moody because I haven't slept, or I'm thinking about all these other things that are stressors for me. And hey, maybe let's not do this because this is what's going on. Or being like, let's do something calmer so that, you get
Mhm.
the better part of me, not the worst side.
Honestly, one thing that I think, should be much more normalized is doing things that need to get done with friends, to make it
Hmm.
more fun. My friends and I will run errands together,
Oh,
or my friends will come over. Like one of my friends, I'm actually hanging out with him later tonight. I've been friends with him since college, and he always makes fun of me because I'm always folding laundry when we hang out. Um, so he just thinks I'm perpetually doing laundry, which I'm not. It's just that that's always the convenient time to hang out with him, and he doesn't mind. I have a friend where every single time I'm over her house, she's doing the dishes. Um, and I hang out and I sit at her kitchen table and we just chat while she does dishes or like prepares dinner. I don't even stay for dinner, you know. I just hang out with her while she cooks dinner for her family and then I go home because I eat later than her. She's got a 2-year old. So I mean, I think that that's a really great way to if you're lucky enough at least like I am to have friends that are close by, that can pop over easily, or you can pop over there easily. Normalize just like doing everyday normal activities with your friends. We did it a lot when we were in college. I know at least my friends and I did. Keep it up in adulthood. Makes things more fun too.
I 100% agree with that. When you were saying that, I was like, yes, Linnell, with the points right here. I think that's a key point in normalizing. I want to really emphasize that word. Normalizing the fact that when you get together, especially as an adult, that doesn't mean you have to go out to eat. That doesn't mean you have to go out to drinks. There doesn't have to be an activity. Sometimes, and I'm definitely similar to Linnell, where I'm like, okay, hey, you can hang out, but you have these things going on. I'll go to Target with you. I'll go
Mhm,
here. I have to do some stuff anyway, so like let's just knock off each other's list. We get to spend time together. Win-win. We get our stuff done and we get that quality time.
mhm,
And I think it's very important to normalize the fact that doing things together, even if it's, not always the funnest,
mhm.
like you said, your friend comes over and you're always doing laundry. But it's like, it's easy. We're still having
Yep.
conversation. We're
Mhm.
still hanging out. I just get to fold my clothes at the same time. And then it
Yeah.
gets done and then we can continue hanging out. But
Yep.
normalizing those small tasks and those things that, hey, you might not want to do, but if a friend joins you, you won't even think about it. It's
Exactly.
it also creates good habits. You look forward to doing those things.
Mhm. Exactly. That's actually the way that I used to go to the gym a lot more because I'm not a big gym rat, at all. I do not like exercise. I've never been a very athletic person. Um, and my friend is very athletic and he would go to the gym every single day. And so I started going with him, just because I enjoyed spending time with him and it was more time to hang out together because he and I both had busy schedules. Um, and it got me in the habit. Now, unfortunately, he lives too far away and we're not able to do that anymore. But at the time, it was a really great, healthy habit. And I was more apt to go because it was more fun because I was with someone.
Yeah, literally, that'll be the only reason you find me at a gym too.
Yeah.
I don't like the gym. I'm a swimmer, so like if there's a pool or it's warm out, you can find me swimming. Or if there's an activity, I like to golf, or if you're traveling, walking around. But like someone said to me actually recently, Lenell, they're like, "Oh, do you go to the gym? Do you work out?" I'm like, "No." And they're like, "Well, do you eat very healthy?" And I'm like, "No." I'm like, "No, I don't." I'm like, "I just do activities." But it's doing those activities, like going on a walk, that can be just as proactive and beneficial for your health, not
Hmm.
just your physical health, your mental health, that when you might not wanna do them by yourself, it is very easy to say, "Hey, let's go on this walk," or "Let's listen to this music," or this and that, and it gets you in that healthy mindset and
Hmm.
activity as well. And it also kind of forces you, not forces you, that's not the right word, but it, like we were saying earlier, it makes you create a habit. Once you start doing it enough,
Yep.
you'll want to do it. And I remember back in high school, my boyfriend at the time, he went to the gym like every day. And I was very much a part of athletics. My listeners and Linnell knows this. I actually managed multiple men's sports team in high school. I was an athlete myself and a state record holder in athletics. And then I went on and was a manager for two D1 hockey programs, the men and women at my alma mater, Quinnipiac. And I went and worked in professional sports. Um, but in high school, my boyfriend went to the gym all the time, every day. And our schedules were very different. And for us, it was like, okay, you go to the gym at 9 o'clock at night, here's 30 minutes. Like, I'm not going to last at the gym as long as he would. And I would get bored, to be honest. But I could be there for at least 30 minutes and do some workouts and spend that quality time.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's much more about the quality time that you give someone than what the activity is.
100%. And it's funny that you talk about how it like holds you to it. That's actually one thing that I recommend to some authors who have trouble keeping dates is to get a co-author for that reason. Because then they have someone else who they're kind of holding themselves accountable with, besides just me, who's their acquisitions editor, is like, get it done. If it's a friend that they're writing with, they're more likely to, not want to disappoint their friend and miss deadlines and delay the project. So it really
And
does work in all walks of life.
and let's get back to the editing side of that and the book side of everything. What are the different projects that you work on different types of books, different audiences that listen to them through your work at Kendall Hunt?
So, like, the different types of, like, disciplines and things that I've worked in or
Yeah.
the or
Or like,
products?
yeah, different products.
Oh, okay, sure. So I mean, Kendall Hunt does everything from print, ebook, and then also interactive web publications, which are actually one of my new favorite things, just because I think they're really cool and I think that they better engage students. And if I had it as a student, I probably would have done a lot more reading, because what will happen is the student will read and then they will actually have to answer questions or interact with that material and then continue reading. So it's almost more like a digital workbook in a way. And then as far as disciplines are concerned, I mean, that's really the coolest part of the job is I get to pick any discipline I want. So I've got a biochemistry book right now, which is really cool. That's coming out soon called Biochemistry in the Kitchen, which is just biochemistry that you can do in your own kitchen. I have an interactive storytelling book, which helps you actually walk you through developing your own interactive narrative, like a choose your own story type thing. So that's really cool. I've got public speaking, theater, mathematics, computer science, medical Spanish. So a very wide range of topics. But I'm a person who just loves to learn and gather knowledge. So again, it's why I really love the day to day of the job because I get to learn about so many different topics and get to talk to so many different professors who have so many different views on everything. I'll at 11 o'clock, I'll be talking with, an astronomy professor about black holes. And then at 1 o'clock, I'll be talking to an ethics professor about climate change. I don't know. just be completely different topics. And it's just really cool to get to shift gears like that and change it up every day and all day.
And that was going to be part of my next question I was going to ask you while you were answering that question. Made me think about how is it learning so many different things? Like you must know or pick up on lessons learned, not just through like your day-to-day role and maybe how to do something different, but you're talking and reading content from individuals who are covering all different spheres. And what for you has been moments or things that while you're working in this role have been top items that you've learned that you have been like, wait, I never thought of that, or I didn't think of it from this perspective.
That's a great question. I don't know. That's a really good one. It would be so hard. It's like picking a favorite child because
Well, now I'm your favorite child.
I know. um, because I'm trying to think now of like a specific thing that I was really impressed with. Usually, it just kind of turns into me asking a lot of questions about different like things I've read and trying to relate things. Um, I know the coolest thing I've learned. Um,
Okay.
the coolest thing I've learned was I was speaking with a bio. What was it? It was called biomechanics, I think. And they were talking. I asked what it was, and they said it's basically the robot parts that they put in humans, like artificial hearts and organs and things. And I remembered seeing a documentary talking about how actually they've done research recently now that shows that metal can corrode in the body and cause actually similar symptoms to Alzheimer's. And so I asked them about that. And this was the coolest thing I'd learned is that these days you can actually 3D print all the robotic parts needed in plastic. So you don't even need metal to create a robot anymore. It can be 100% plastic 3D printed, which I just thought was the coolest thing ever. So I don't know if that's a good answer, but I thought it was neat. Um,
All of your answers are great answers,
yeah.
Linnell. Let's just make that record straight right now. Linnell, for you, what has been the most challenging thing? Let's flip it a little bit. What has
Okay.
also been the most challenging thing sometimes on working on areas or topics where you don't know as much about?
Finding out the right questions to ask. That one I knew the answer to right away. Finding the right questions to ask. Because sometimes it's very, very hard to get the information you need when you're not sure what to ask to get it.
Mhm.
Or they're explaining something and you just don't know what to ask to figure out what you need to figure out because you don't know what you need to figure out, if that makes sense. Um, I would say that's it. It's just trying to use the right communication to figure out what you need.
And I think that's a very important topic across the board. A very
Hmm.
important thing to realize is you're not always going to know the question, and you're not always going to get the answer you think you're going to get from the question that you ask. So it can also be as just as important as asking the question, realizing it's not the response you thought you were going to get or what you were trying to figure out, and then realizing how to re-ask the question in maybe a different way so that you can go in the direction you want to go in.
Hmm. I would say the overarching theme is communication is key. um, I think that, teamwork and communication and really just making sure that you're asking the right questions and understanding people and making sure that you're understood is really the key to, I guess, the key to success. Uh,
Well, Linnell, you just did a few of my few takeaways from
oh,
today's
sorry.
conversation. No, I love it. I love when my guests jump in with like the key points right at the end. I love it because it really, I think, ties everything up. I do have a few more, but before we get to that, how can people get in touch with you if they'd like to connect with you?
Sure. My LinkedIn is a great place. If you just search for Lenell Wyman, you're probably not going to find too many Lenells out there anyway, so you're good there. And then you can also email me at lwyman, Lwyman, at kendallhunt.com.
Uh, Thank you, Linnell, for all
Mhm.
of your insight today. A few of our key takeaways from today's conversation is communication is key, as well as expressing those stressors that you have going on with your life. Why might something be happening? And vice versa. If you can accelerate things, be transparent with that as well. And another big takeaway from today is prioritize your to do list. It's always shifting, it can always change. But as long as you prioritize those key things that you need to get done, there's a deadline, you can stay on track, and it could also help project you in a positive direction, as well as normalizing. One of my favorite ones from today is normalizing the everyday tasks to do with your friends, to make them part of your routine, to do them together. It allows you to have that quality time, but it also allows you to get into good habits, get things done, be proactive with things. And it's all around just positive. I love that one. This was a great episode with our top notch guest, Lenell Wyman. Thank you for listening and have a successful day.